Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Downtime with Downstar, episode 201. And today we are here with Ara Arslanian. Ara, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Frank?
I'm great, brother. Hey, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no, this is a pleasure. It's an honor. The community and being part of the community, I love being part of it and talking about the old days, and then and mesmerized by the current racers, the current what I call the breed of speed,
Yeah.
and the speed, the numbers, the horsepower levels, and the ET levels is just like mind-boggling.
Yeah.
They crushed we ever did.
I love it, man. So, OG racer from the East Coast, we've actually been getting a lot of requests for you on Downtime with Downstar to have you on. Like I told you before, we've had a lot of the West Coast OGs on here telling their stories, painting the picture of how the community started and who were the fast guys and what was what. So I'm pretty familiar with that. But when it comes to the East Coast, not so much, man. And that this is definitely one of my goals is to get that story painted as well, because we have a large following in the East Coast, and I want to show you guys some love, man, and I want to educate myself as well. So if you can just give us a brief breakdown of who you are and what you do, please.
Sure, no problem. Well, as some of the followers would know, I was. They know me as an import racer, but I started out with road racing, kart racing, road racing, little bit of BMX stuff, and moped racing when I was between that age, and then car racing again, and then in the United States got into street racing, and then that went to racetrack, and the import scene exploded, and we happened to have been right there at when it exploded, and formed a family. East Coast racers and the West Coast racers, we all formed a family. It may have looked like we were rivals on the racetrack, and we were, but I tell you, this the camaraderie and the family that we built before qualifying began, and then after racing was over on Sunday, and even in between, everybody helping each other out is what I remember the most. But that's what I did, So we started racing in the '90s in the import in the late '90s. I went to Englishtown Raceway Park on a dare because I used to make fun of drag racers. As a road racer, I used to make fun of drag racers. I made fun of drag racers my entire life because I was like, dude, all you do is press on the gas and you go straight. There's no left. There's no right. There's no breaking point. There's nothing. You just go straight. Like, yeah. So one day on a dare, I took my Supra, which was set up as a road race car, and I went to Englishtown. I almost hit the wall. Going 15 seconds, it scared the shit out of me. And I don't remember the exact time, but it was definitely in the 15 seconds. And I pulled up. Now, I've never been on a drag strip. I pulled up on the left lane. I'll never forget. I pulled up on the left lane, and now I have road racing slicks on the car. Not drag racing slicks.
Yeah.
Slicks, road racing slicks. The whole setup was a road racing car. And to my right was a Camaro. And he sits there and starts burning a tire. I look up. I'm like, the hell is this guy doing? What is this? And I just pull up. I go through the water box. Now my tires are all wet, right? I go through the water box. Somebody told me how to line up, how to stage and all that. So I did the best I can. I staged it very well. The light goes down and I take off. All of a sudden the car's going left, going to the right. I'm like trying to stay away from the wall. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I finally coasted down the track, and I came back around, and at the time she was my fiance, and a friend of mine, they said, you look like a ghost. I'm like, I got to go back. There's no way I'm leaving this track like that. I got to redeem myself. So I went back again on the left lane. This time I still didn't do a burnout because I wouldn't know how to do a burnout in the first place.
Yeah.
I took it nice and easy. Nothing. I coasted to maybe 15 seconds, but it was straight. I came back as I did it.
Yeah.
It's an accomplishment. And that's how I got hooked on drag racing. I'm like, holy shit, this thing is way harder than I thought.
Yeah.
And little by little, I started going on test and tune days on Wednesdays at E-Town. You pay $10 and you go in. And then we had like Street Wars, whatever it was at the time was called, Drag Wars at E-Town on a Friday night. And I got into it, 14 seconds, then 13 seconds, then 11 seconds. Then you start working with the mortar and all that stuff. And then 10 seconds, 9 seconds. So we were the first unibody 6-speed. I raced a manual. So the Supra was a manual 6-speed. And we were the first to break into the nines. We did it in Las Vegas in 2000, end of 2000, doing a NYRA event. And then 2001, we campaigned the Supra again throughout NYRA, IDRC, and anything that we had in Englishtown, and also another racetrack by us called ATCO. And then we built the tube chassis cars, the Solaras, again with the 2JZ motor. And that was, we unveiled them in early 2000, beginning of the 2000 season. The cars, I was very lucky. We had a very, very strong team. So I always said it then, I'll say it again now. They made me look way better than I was. They put a car together for me every single time. The car was extremely consistent. We made awesome power. If anything, we made more power than the racetracks could handle, because in those days, raceways, the tracks, they really didn't take imports seriously. And there was different prepping for us than there were for the muscle cars. So when we arrived, the prepping wasn't there. We struggled. A lot of time we would go to racetracks and they were not prepped well. So what the guys had to do on the team was manage the power. Bring down the power, tame the car down. Because turbos, all you got to do is turn the boost up. And every week or every 2 weeks, we had more technology. Somehow we figured out how to add another 50 horsepower to the car. By the end of the year, we're making 300 more horsepower. But the racetracks were no better. Racetracks were still not prepped well. But that changed eventually, because imports, we started going low 7s and then 6s. And racing became pretty, we took away, the imports took away a lot of the money from the domestic scene.
Let's actually talk about that. I had Rafael Estevez on in the last episode, and he was saying about the same thing when they would go out to the, I believe it was Englishtown as well, and probably ATCO, that they would just they would get ridiculed by the muscle cars. So what was that like?
For me, look, when we were building, when I was still racing the Supra and the Solaris were still being built, so Solaris were not even built yet. I started, like I said, I'm a trash talker. So for NHRA, editor of National Dragster, his name was Phil Burgess. So nobody knew me at the time. I would go to national events and I say, I want to match race Warren Johnson. I didn't even have a car yet. The car wasn't even ready. And I wanted to match race Warren Johnson. Warren Johnson was the king of pro stock at the time. Just before the summit team of Greg Anderson and them started surpassing John Force. John Force was the king. So my eye was on John Force. I said, I want to race John Force. I want to race Warren Johnson. I want to race Warren Johnson. And it took about a year for that to start circulating a little bit. And by then, the cars were already built, and we were running maybe 720s, 730s at that time.
And what did Warren Johnson have?
Warren Johnson had was a GM 500 cubic inch, naturally aspirated pro stock car. They were running six at the time. They were probably running around 690s. When the Solaris were unveiled, when we were running 720s, 730s consistently, we were not in the 6s yet. Nobody was. In the import scene. The pro stocks were already running 690s, and I was already challenging them for a match race. And so for me, I didn't really care how they looked at us. I wanted to race them head on anyway. And then when the cars were built, I was all for it. And a lot of people know that we had this big match race set up with Warren Johnson, against Warren Johnson and his son. That fell through, unfortunately, because they pulled out and GM pulled out.
Really?
That's a whole different. I'll talk about that. A lot of people know the story, but maybe some forgot, and maybe some don't know the details. But
All right,
Yeah,
we'll definitely come back to
yeah. Make
that.
it that one because we got to talk about that one.
But so let's go ahead and let's take it to the back to the beginning, man. You were born in France?
I lived in France a long time.
Okay,
We also lived in Kuwait a long time,
got you.
and here, so three countries.
When did you move to the States?
1980,
At what age was that?
16.
16.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
I moved here. We moved here when I was 16, and obviously I didn't have a license. I had a license to race because I had a road racing license in Europe. I didn't have a street license here, but I was, you know,
Hmm.
I would take my mother's car anyway and
Yeah.
go around looking for street races.
So moving here at 16, what was the reasoning for your relocation?
Oh, my father has family in Fresno, California, and I think originally we were supposed to move to California, but
Oh,
we ended up in New Jersey.
got you, got you. So at 16, what is your mindset about uprooting from everything you know and coming to a new land?
It was different, it was some, in some ways it was easy, some ways it wasn't. New friends, completely new friends.
Yeah.
Um, but something about the car scene, you make friends very quickly.
Yeah. So when you were in France, is that where when you started racing go-karts?
Yes, yeah. When I was a kid, my father put me in a go kart track just for fun. That became I got hooked, and that became more of a just, hey, let's go to the go kart track. It was more like we got to race this weekend. You got to prepare yourself. You got to go out there and practice. You got to go out and practice. So that was at 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way to 14 years old.
Wow. And that was your first taste of adrenaline?
Um, well, maybe that, and also just bicycle jumping off of cliffs, not cliffs, but like
Dirt jumps?
anything that was dangerous. Anything that was dangerous. And of course, the first thing my father would buy me a bike. The first thing I'll do is remove the brakes to make the bike lighter, so that you can go jump higher. All that crazy stuff. So it was not only speed; it was whatever was dangerous. I was attracted to.
Really? Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. I'm the only one in the family like that. I might be adopted. I'm not sure.
There you go. So fast forward to 16, you moved to New Jersey, you say. What
Yes,
city was that in New Jersey?
Cresskill. Cresskill. That's
Cor-
we're 7 or 8 miles north of New York City.
Okay, got you, got
Yes,
you.
we're north. I'm northern New Jersey, very close to New York City.
What do you
So we're about 65 miles from Englishtown Raceway Park.
Okay, got you. Got you. Okay, so what are your thoughts when you move to the States and you start seeing New York and New Jersey?
Uh, what were my thoughts? I mean, it was different. I mean, everything was different. I know my father took me to Englishtown when I was 17 years old.
Okay.
He took me to Englishtown, but it wasn't for the drag racing scene. It was a some car show that he wanted to go. My father had a Oldsmobile 442 when he was younger, when I was younger.
Got you.
So my father was into the car scene, not car scene, but he was into cars. And then for 1982, for my graduation, he bought me 1982 Trans Am.
Got
Uh,
you.
yeah, he bought me Trans Am, and that's where I learned to. Um, that's where I learned how to screw cars up.
So what was the first mod that you did?
The first
The
one,
first one.
uh, a Magnum. It was called a Magnum nitrous kit. I opened the box up. I bought it from a place not too far away from here called Mother's,
Okay.
and I bought the kit. It was a Magnum kit. It had 3 jets in it: 100, a 200, and a 300 horsepower jets. And of course, I need the biggest one there is.
Yeah.
So just going through the directions, I opened up the car. I did whatever I had to do, put everything together, and put the jet in for 300. I went up the street, went around the block, went to this big open this highway by us called 9W, and I hit it, and I left everything on the highway.
Wait, so what year was this Trans Am?
1982.
And what year was it?
82.
Oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine doing that, man. So what did your pop say when you brought it home?
I called a friend of mine who had a gas station about 5 miles down the road. He sent me a tow truck.
Yeah.
Towed the car over to his place. And no, my father didn't say anything. You know, I said, you know, I need a new motor. So my friend, who was just a mechanic, an Exxon station, but a good mechanic, not a speed shop.
Yeah.
He just put another motor in there. But it wasn't long before I blew that one up too.
Really?
Because I was doing things myself that I shouldn't have been done doing.
Yeah.
And then eventually put a bigger motor and a real built motor by somebody, you know, who does that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I had a real car.
Got you. Man, how did it feel to have to pay for those two motors?
Thankfully, I had my father's credit card.
I love it, man. Oh, you know, I always hear all these old stories, man, and people are like, yeah, I just got a 92 Civic, and I just put a nitrous kit in. I said, what year was this? It was 93. I said, dude, that's a brand new car.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I used to, obviously, the nitrous, that was the only time that was it. That was the end of the nitrous. I had a bad taste with the experience. Yeah. And so with the second motor, what we did was actually, so the car came with what at the time was called crossfire fuel injection.
Mm-hmm.
It may have been, it was something that was offered on a Corvette, a 1982 Corvette as well. And so it was technically a fuel injection system. But what we did on the second motor is yank all that out, got rid of the injectors, got rid of the computer, and we put a carburetor.
Mm-hmm.
And we put a carburetor, and I don't know how much horsepower the motor made, but I'm guessing at the time it probably made 350 horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
And the car came with 165 horsepower.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was 165 at the time. It was rated at 165.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, so I'm thinking we made about 350 horsepower. So then the next thing to go was a transmission. So we put a transmission in. Anyway, that's how it started. You know, that's how my racing started. That's how the street racing started here.
Got you. So were you street racing the Trans Am?
Yeah, absolutely.
Got you.
Yeah, we were street racing. I was street racing the Trans Am. I learned to hustle because, I learned from somebody down the street that, you know, you have to lose a couple races to get a bigger race.
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing. And then eventually everybody caught on. So I had to start driving further and further away, down towards the Jersey Shore area, which was as much as an hour and a half drive at night on a Friday or Saturday night.
Yeah.
Just to pick up a race, because here nobody raced me. And then eventually I started racing. I had to race motorcycles. By the time the Supra came around, I was racing motorcycles.
Oh, shit.
I was racing against motorcycles.
Got you. So when you were racing back then with the Trans Am, what were some of the streets or the areas that you guys were racing at?
We were racing, like, when you talk to, for example, from, you know, the boys from DRT, they were more in New York. Mm-hmm. I was more in New Jersey.
Got you.
So there were areas near Englishtown Raceway Park, actually. The highways near Englishtown Raceway Park, and the highways closer to Jersey Shore, mm-hmm. and another highway like New Jersey Turnpike in between here and Englishtown. There were pockets of highways where we knew there wouldn't be any cops.
Yeah.
Between exits, and that's where we would race. And there was a lot of stuff was roll-ons. You know, you roll, you do a roll from second gear up, and so it wasn't street racing as far as light to light.
Oh.
I mean, of course we did that, but that was not like an arranged race. It was just, you just come up on somebody and decide to race them.
So it was more roll racing instead of like from a dig?
Yeah,
Got you.
yeah. On the highways there was, yeah.
Got
On
you.
the highway.
Okay. So,
Where we would have like a one or two cars slow down the traffic somehow, and you know the rest. But all this was in actually technically it was all in Mexico.
yeah, it all happens in Mexico, man. I mean, especially to this day in Mexico, they slow down the traffic, and I love watching those videos at like 1 or 2 in the morning. Shout out to Thai
Yeah,
Boogie. But I've been out to the East Coast many times, but I've just never had a chance to catch one of those races on the highway, man. That's one of my goals for sure.
yeah,
There's definitely a lot of passion out there for racing.
yeah, yeah. And then of course there was racing at the road racing also. Um, my favorite here was is a place called Lime Rock in Connecticut.
Okay.
Then you have Poconos. Uh, so those are the two big road racing courses that still exist.
So you had the Trans Am, and you're doing some street racing with that. When do you start moving over into to God, what
The street
the street track racing, not drag racing, road racing. I'm
racing,
sorry, road racing.
road racing. I was always road racing.
Okay.
The street stuff was just on the side. Just
What were you road racing? Was it the Trans Am?
I was yeah. I was that was a I was racing road racing the Trans Am, um, and I also had access to other road racing, full blown road race cars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Porsches and stuff.
Got you.
Yeah, that were not street cars at all.
Got you.
They were just full blown road race cars.
So road racing, how long does an actual race take? I'm not really that familiar with the road racing.
At the time, depending on the type of racing, it was anywhere between 20 minutes and hour and 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Or also there were other events called like trials where a car you do a time lap,
Mm-hmm.
but it was one car on a lap per time, one car on the racetrack at a time. You know, just doing laps
Yeah.
and trying to get the best lap times.
Got you. Did you find yourself with much success with road racing?
Yeah, yeah. Road racing was very good. I love road racing, and I still do. I still love road racing. But you know, it was a different. I got hooked on the drag racing in a different manner. I don't know what it was. It may have been the scene. It may have been the culture.
Mm.
I think it was more the culture and the scene than anything else. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it could have been. You know, it could have been. You know, a European car instead of a Japanese car. The scene was the scene.
Yeah.
You know, I'll call it import, but Japanese. But it could have been, you know, it could have been a British car.
Yeah.
But if the scene and the culture was the same, it would have been same.
I feel you, man. So let's get back to that time where you're at English Town. You almost lose it for your first pass, second pass. You get a
Yeah.
whopping 15 seconds, hands in the air, success. What's your feelings like after that towards drag racing?
Oh, I had to figure out how to go straight and fast. I mean, that was the bottom line. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do this. You know, you can't be hunting the walls and trying to go fast in a straight line at the same time. So then I started looking into tires, um, just learning how to launch a car with enough power
Mm-hmm.
and not to slip the clutch, and you know, not to destroy the clutch, which I was doing regularly on the OEM set. I mean, once we started, you know, then I got hooked up with a really cool shop that was doing all my work. He ended up being our engine builder. His name was Bert Gertner, and he had a shop that I took the Supra to, and I said, "Make my car faster." You know, but at the time there was nothing available.
Mhm.
Everything was you had to get everything from Japan.
Yeah.
There was nothing here. The cars were brand new. I mean, there was no aftermarket. You know, aftermarket support was very, very minimal, almost nil. It didn't exist until '96, really, '97.
So we're talking
You know,
about 93-ish, around there?
I started in '93.
Gotcha.
You know, middle of '93, and the only thing I got my hands on was a HKS exhaust system from Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and what else? Oh, K&N open air filter. I mean, these are the only things available at the time, you know. And I was talking to somebody recently. There was a company called Ara Arslanian. He had an intercooler and also an exhaust system, but it wasn't at the same quality as HKS or Grady or anything like that. But Grady and HKS stuff started coming in maybe 95. I got my first T78 single turbo kit for the Supra in 96. Injectors and the fuel rails, they were very hard to get. I mean, it took months to get it.
So how would you even order something like this? Would you have to go through a shop or?
Yeah, I went, you know, Bird at the time had the shop, and so he would order parts for me. And when they arrived, I'd take the car to him and he would install it. In between, I was racing a lot. So I needed maintenance, you know, breaking the turbos, the OEM turbos, I was blowing them up left and right. Because I kept cranking the boost up.
Yeah.
I wanted more and more and more, and they could only take so much. I think they could have probably taken 19, 20 pounds, you know, consistently, and I was at probably 22, 24.
Got you.
And I would blow them up, and then eventually he got me the single turbo kit, and that was in 96. And oh boy, I was talking about an on-off switch. Oh my God, you have zero, then all of a sudden it was like 550 horsepower. And 550 at the time in 96 was a lot of horsepower.
That's still a lot.
It was a lot of horsepower at the time.
Yeah.
And it was no joke. I went with the factory turbos, let me put it this way, with the factory turbos, an Ibach lowering kit, better Motul brake fluid. I would do, in Lime Rock, I would do 102.58 second laps. 102.58 was very strong lap times.
Okay.
Switch from that to the single turbo. The first weekend out there, I was going 130. It was way too much horsepower. The car was all over the place. The spool up time was different. It wouldn't spool up in time. It spooled up at like 6,000 RPM, you know, and you know, Lime Rock was a tight course. So you need momentum. And I'm like, so now I have to learn to like keep my foot in the throttle and never lift and just keep braking. And so now my brakes were fading.
Yeah.
So it took probably 20 hours before I got back down to the 102 level with a T78. But it was a losing proposition because you had M3s that were making 300 horsepower less. They were coming in and passing me on the corners.
Yeah.
And I would retake them on the straightaways because of the power. But when we went back into the infield, they would just go around me like I was standing still.
Yeah.
You know, because of the momentum.
That actually gave me a lot of respect for road racing because it's not really about the amount of power that you have. I remember I went to, have you heard of Grid Life before?
Of what?
Grid Life?
No.
Well, Grid Life is a series that's out now, and they have drifting and they have road racing, and they'll have like concerts at night and things like that. I went over there and I actually rode in somebody's car, and it was like a Civic EF making probably like 150 horsepower, and he scared the shit out of me. I was like, man, how are you able to do this with just such little horsepower? But I guess when you're going on the road course, that you just don't need that much power. An important part of buying Honda parts online is making sure that you can trust the company that you're dealing with to get you the right parts reliably. You're spending a lot of money and you spent a lot of time researching your build. The last thing that you may want to do is send cash to a website where you may never see it again, and worse yet, never see parts. With Heel Toe Automotive, an 18-year history track record is part of the deal. Heel Toe brings you deep industry connects, professional parts recommendations, alternative ideas when your parts aren't available, and will even contact you if something on your order looks out of ordinary before it ships. Heel Toe's unique checkout allows you to select a deadline to receive your parts to make sure you get them in the time for your project plans. You can buy parts online anywhere, but Heel Toe knows what truly matters to an enthusiast. Professionalism, swiftness, and accuracy. Heel Toe is in your corner. Visit HeelToeAuto.com, or you can call or text at 949-295-1668. And make sure you check them out on Instagram at Heel Toe Automotive.
Yeah, you just foot to the wood, just like keep momentum, and it won't look fast from the outside, but the stopwatch doesn't lie.
Yeah.
The stopwatch doesn't lie. If you took my, twin turbo 450 horsepower Supra, and then you watch that video, and then you watch the, single turbo 600 horsepower, you would think I was going faster with this because the way it was moving around, but I was 20 seconds slower. And that's huge, 20 seconds. 20 seconds if you're doing 10 laps. Forget it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So when you decided to go from the twin turbo to the single turbo, was it more towards you just want to make the car faster, or you want to make it faster for drag, or were you still balancing both drag and road racing?
No, that was at the time was when I put the T78 single, still strictly road racing. I had still never been to the drag strip.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I still had never been to the drag strip. It was all street and road course.
Got you.
On the street, the car was a total sleeper. I mean, the only thing I did is I took the factory wheels, I painted them black.
Mm-hmm.
I had the HKS exhaust, and that was it. It was a total sleeper, making probably 600 horsepower at the time.
Got you.
And if it was a serious race, I would put in a race gas and turn the boost up.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was I got more serious, and I went to a Haltech computer, so we can have a little bit more tuning adjustability. Then the drag strip came in.
Got you.
And then with the drag strip, it was more about the power was there. It was more about clutches. The factory clutch was lasting about, if I remember correctly, maybe 6 passes. Once I started going to the high 11s, it was 6 passes per clutch.
Shit.
And then at the time, there was really hard to find clutches, and I was looking for twin disc clutches from whoever made it. And they were usually a little too on-off, and I didn't like it. Finally, we hooked up with Tilton. And a lot of people know about the Tilton clutch, the carbon clutch. And it was a game changer for us. It was a game changer. Once we started making 700, 800, 900 horsepower, and then the Tilton came in, it was a game changer. It was an expensive clutch. It was, I think retail was $5,800 at the time. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. In 2001, 2000, that was a $5,800 clutch. It may still be now. I'm not even sure.
Wow.
But it was an awesome clutch. You can drive it on the street. You can slip the shit out of it. It wanted heat anyway, and you can go to drag strip or you can go to road race, and it shifted very smoothly. And it was but it was an expensive clutch.
Wow.
But it worked.
So, when did you feel like you?
Ahead here a little bit because I'm jumping ahead here because I went from the single turbo to the Tilton clutch. There's a little bit more in between.
No worries, man. No worries. I know when it gets talking about these old stories, man, these memories just come flooding in. So,
but you know what I also want to talk about? I want to talk about all the racers.
Yeah.
I don't want to just talk about the cars. I want to talk about the racers so people know. I mean, followers who were younger, much younger back then, and maybe they were 14, 15 years old at the time. I want them to know, I would like them to know the racers, both from the East Coast and as well as from the West Coast.
So let's get into it. So you start drag racing, and you realize that you're developing a new passion for this sport that you didn't think that was much difficult before you actually did it. So you're diving into it, going to the track. Tell me what the atmosphere is like. The cars that are there. The fast racers from East Coast. Some guys that you're hearing about from the West Coast. Just paint us that picture.
Yeah. Well, when I started first going to the racetrack with the Supra back in '97, '98, '99, when we had a big event at Englishtown, an import event, and then the guys from the West Coast came, it was like, Adam Salvatore with his RX-7. Then you had Papadakis with his Hondas, Bergenholtz. Um, there were a few more, maybe one or two more from the West Coast. And then we had the East Coast guys. So for me, it was that. I'm like, oh man, I want to go. That's where I want to be. I want to be there. I want to go that fast. And it wasn't long before I learned the sport and made friends, put a team together, which was the most critical and the best part of my history is my team. Honestly, I can say my team, you could have given them any car, any motor platform. I don't think it would have made a difference because of how they were and the passion they had and how we worked together. So we worked together. We won a lot of championships. We won a lot of races. We had a lot of ups and downs. We had good months and good weekends, and we had bad weekends. But at the end of the year, every year we came out with a championship. So, and it wasn't me and it wasn't the car, it was a team.
I love it.
As well as the sponsors, of course.
When did you realize that you needed a team, and how did you go about creating a team, and what were some of the things that you would offer them to be part of the team?
Yeah, so I 2000, it was around 99, 2000. So it became more and more demanding because I was expecting more and more of myself, and I was expecting more and more of the car. And I'm very competitive by nature. So, and I'm very focused. So, I set my mind to it. I'm like, okay, what do I have to do? And I made a very long-term plan. And I knew that it would have to involve sponsors. I knew it would have to involve a full-time team and no other jobs. No side jobs. This is it. No side jobs for anybody. It's going to be a full team, full crew, full-time job, and full-time racing. And this way,
wow,
we can go win a championship. And that was in 99. I was starting to feel that way, and by 2000, I had all the mechanics that were working on the race car. I mean, on my car at the time, the Supra. I hired them. Mm-hmm. I hired them to be my teammates, and I hate using the term crew members because I call them teammates. So I
didn't understand that.
She doesn't know about loyalty. That's why.
The phone just picked up my Google or something. Anyway, so I knew I wanted teammates, and each one had to have their job. I learned that from road racing. You had everybody had their job to do, and when everybody did their job and gelled together, then you have a full-blown race team, regardless of the car, and somehow or another can always make a car go fast. And so that was in around 2000. So I hired Bert, and then his employee I hired because I got along with him very well and I liked his work ethics. Then I hired through other friends. I knew others who also had good ethics and good mechanics, so I hired them, and we gave it a shot. And except for one teammate, we had no turnover. We had the same teammates for 10 years.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, and so then sponsors start coming in because we were doing well. We were doing well. I was running. I ran it like a business, so it wasn't just. This is what was hurting me seeing at the time with the younger racers. It was I can see it for years. People didn't see it as a business. It was more like a race, which is fine. It's a game, which is fine, but it also has to be a business to attract the sponsors. We had a lot of sponsors, and I'm telling you, a lot of sponsors would come to us, and I would say, no, 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 go to another team. And that's a really good team. They need some support once you go to them. Yeah, but we need to be on new car. We need to be on new car. Well, I can talk about that a little bit later. I'm jumping ahead again.
Okay.
But we gathered. We partnered up with some good sponsors, and by the time the Solara hit the scene, we were all, sponsorship-wise, we were strong. Team-wise, we were strong. The Toyota platform 2JZ motor was super strong. In fact, I don't think anybody knew at the time how strong that platform was. We were getting an idea about it from the Supra days because we tried a lot on Supras. The one thing I always did on a Supra was I was never afraid of breaking a motor. So I'm like, okay, let's put this motor on a dyno and let's break it. Let's break it. I want to see what this can do. You put it, whatever it is, whether it was the OEM pistons or aftermarket pistons. Let's see how much we can get out of these pistons. And keep pushing and keep pushing, keep pushing until we found, the weak links on the Supra. So by the time we actually built the Pro cars, all we had to do was basically put bigger turbos, learn the clutch. As far as the platform on the motor in the program, we were already running Motec on the Supra, which is something else we also did is run the Motec on the Supra way back before. I don't know if anybody else had Motec at the time, to be honest with you. Maybe Flacco had, Abel. I'm thinking he might have. Abel Ibarra. I doubt, but we definitely had the Motec back in the late 90s in the Supra. So we learned on the Motec, and when we built the Solaras, we were already very highly versed with the software.
Got you.
So when the Solaris hit the scene, we hit the ground running. We may have been green with the car, but we weren't green with the racing because we established, I think, a pretty good. We did very well with the Supra running in the Naira series with Craig Lieberman running director of Naira and the whole Naira staff. We had an awesome time racing Naira. I mean, those are my best days, racing Naira events all over the country. East Coast and the West Coast. We have stories about that. Oh my God, Naira was awesome.
Yeah.
We had also IPRC, but I committed more to Naira at the time. We had a great time racing Naira.
And that was just coast to coast?
Yeah. The Supra was coast to coast in 2000 and 2001.
Wow.
Yeah. We traveled. So I got a rig and the whole thing and the full-time team and sponsors came in and, financially we were good. So it was just a matter of doing our job.
Downtime with Downstar would like to welcome our newest sponsor, Rywire Motorsport Electronics. Rywire has been around since 2005, supplying you with solutions for all of your motorsport electronics needs. Whether you need a simple ECU adapter, engine harness, chassis harness, or PDM setup, they can get you taken care of. Offering products for most popular engine platforms from Honda, Toyota, Nissan, GM, hey, even Lamborghini. And if you have any private label needs, they can also take care of that as well. Rywire is the leader in motorsport electronics in our community, and we're excited to have them part of the Downtime with Downstar family. Please make sure you guys support Rywire. You guys can check them out at rywire.com or on Instagram at rywire_motorsport_electronics. I know it's long, guys. If you just search Rywire, it will pop up. And if you're searching, make sure you search them on YouTube, and you can check out their YouTube channel where they are working on their new EV S2000 build. We're super excited for that, and we're super excited for Rywire to be part of the Downtime with Downstar family. So please, guys, make sure you go show Rywire some love and tell them that Downtime with Downstar sent you. Once again, that's rywire.com. How were you able to accomplish all of this with a full-time team prior to the sponsors?
I already had most of the equipment, to be honest with you. So the only thing I had to do was take care of the team, with salaries. But I got, we got I got approached by Toyota back in the 90s because what I did was back in 98. So we were doing some of the East Coast races here with the Supra, but there was a big event in Las Vegas at the Strip, and I knew Toyota was going to be there, and of course a lot of the West Coast teams were going to be there. I said, you know what, I'm going to go there. So I had a 28-foot trailer. I hired somebody to drive the trailer to Las Vegas. We flew to Las Vegas, and because I had one thing in mind. Because I knew Toyota was going to be there with their Supra, and I wanted to beat that Supra, and we did. And we also went into the nines, which was the first time ever for a unibody 6-speed to go into the nines.
Yeah, wow.
And so it wasn't too long after that. That's how I established a relationship with Toyota. It was beating them in the West Coast, being an East Coast racer, and really new to the scene. And maybe they liked the way we presented. Everybody was wearing uniform.
Yeah.
Everybody had to be clean. Everybody had to look corporate. And that's what was my thing. It had to be, we walk as a team. I alone can't do anything. The car alone will never do anything. But a team together, especially when the team looks together, uniform as one, it's a huge statement.
Yeah.
On the racetrack as well to the corporate eye. It's a whole package.
Definitely.
And that's how I was able to attract sponsors very quickly, very early on, because I think luckily we as a team put on a very good image right away.
That's something that I really want to tap into is the sponsorship aspect of it. Always looking back into the late 90s, early 2000s. You'll see some names on cars that you can't even believe. I see one of them on your car was a Circuit City. I can't even imagine to this day going to the track and seeing like a Best Buy sticker on a car. So tell me what it was like back in the day getting a sponsorship and what a sponsorship meant to you, and what were some of the things that you guys did to attract and to lock in sponsors.
Well, what we did with the way I worked with sponsorships was to answer like the Circuit City, for example. So what I was doing was when we had Streetglow as a sponsor. So I was very fortunate to get Streetglow as a sponsor in 2002. At the end of 2001, we possibly may have had a deal going on with a wax company, a big name. And unfortunately, there was a little bit of a delay on that. And I was always the type where I would say, listen, I'm on fast forward here. I'm not even on play. And, when I hit fast forward, there's no stopping. I don't care who you are. This is where I am and this is where I'm going. Mm-hmm. You can come along for the ride or you can miss out. And this is your window to decide yes or no. So unfortunately, not unfortunately, but with the other company, it wasn't going smoothly, and then Streetglow came and basically asked to meet me. So Streetglow is also based out of New Jersey. I met with them 2 or 3 days after we came back from a race in actually the last race of 2001 and 2002. I'm sorry. And we sat down, and I told them, what it will cost to become a sponsor on my cars.
Yeah.
And to be part of the team. And it would have to be a partnership. It would have to be a multi-year partnership. And I'm willing to work for the corporation 5 days a week, while my guys work in the race car 5 days a week. And then come Saturday, Sunday, I only work for the team. I don't work for the sponsors. I work for the guys.
Wow.
So if my teammates are working 5 days a week trying to set the race car up, Saturday, Sunday, I work for them. I don't work for the sponsors.
So you say you would work for them. What would you be doing for those 5 days a week?
Or work with the marketing department. How do we bring, for example, with Circuit City, how do you promote the product? You bring in the models at the racetrack, bring in the models at the racetrack. Coupons, discounts, whatever it has to be, is how else can you justify asking for a lot of money to become part of a team.
Yes.
There's no way it can just be by winning on a Saturday, Sunday. Now, keep in mind, though, we were very lucky at the time. We had a TV package. Races were on TV. Print was great. It was all the magazines at the time were, covering imports. Like, it was crazy how imports were covered on import. We didn't have social media, so we had was the magazines and the TV coverage. So we had TV packages that we can also present to sponsors, and that was worth a lot of money. But working for, if a kid tells me right now, hey, Ara, how do you get sponsorships? My question to them would be, do you really want to be sponsored? Because it's a job. Once you get a paycheck, going to the racetrack on a Saturday and Sunday with your buddies is no longer. It's a job.
Yeah.
Whether you want it, whether you feel good, whether you feel sad or whatever, you have to go to the racetrack. And part of that whole thing is working with their marketing companies from Monday through Friday. Because if you do well on a Saturday, Sunday, you want to take advantage and you want to capitalize on that win throughout the whole week. Because if the budget committee of a company says, hey, why are you spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on this team? We can say, oh, well, look at this. We just increased your revenue by 25%.
Yeah.
And it all happened at the racetrack.
Yeah.
It all happened at the racetrack. And here's the proof. You have coupons on your discount coupons, for example, with the tags or what,
the barcodes,
barcodes that were presented at racetrack. So unfortunately, I didn't see any of that from any of the other teams.
Yeah.
And that worried me to the point where in 2004, I'll jump ahead here a little bit. I was very worried for the sport because I knew I wanted to start to 2005, 2006. I knew I was going to. We were getting burnt out a little bit after so many years on the road, but I was worried about the sport because sponsors were all gone. There were no new sponsorships. And a lot of teams were financially in very bad shape.
Yeah.
They didn't capitalize on the scene in 2002, 2003, 2004 with my mentality of running it as a business. In fact, I was always pissed off at all the other guys, especially a few in the East Coast, because I wanted to be like NASCAR. In NASCAR, if a sponsor wants to go get on a hood, they knew it's going to be $2.5 million.
Yeah.
They want to get on the on the quarter panel, it's $1 million.
Yeah.
It was there's no ifs. That was a price. But for us, everybody was like, if I'm charging, I was charging $500,000 a car.
Yeah.
I would not. If you're not willing to put $500,000, I'm not interested. But then I assure you, there were people doing the same thing I was doing for $5,000, and I would piss off. I'm like, I would go to them like, dude, what the hell did you just do? You just gave your car away for $5,000. Yeah, he goes, I want to just to get my foot through the door and just to get a relationship. I'm like, oh yeah, then what? What if they double your sponsorship next year? It's going to go from 5 to 10,000. What are you going to do with the 10,000? How do you you just undercut me and you undercut all the other teams, because I said we all have to get together and say, look, it's going to be $500,000 for the hood on a pro rear car.
Yeah.
Maybe for a front wheel drive car, maybe a little bit less, but it still has to be a lot of money. $300,000. That's it. You pick your team. You don't like this team, okay, that team, but it's still going to be $300,000. That team's not going to sell you. They're not going to shortchange the rest of the field. But everybody was doing that.
Wow.
And everybody was doing that. It might still be happening today, but I don't think it's to that same level because you don't have that kind of money coming in now. Back then, I'm telling you, there was money flowing in left and right. There was a lot of money available, especially for the import scene, because the import scene was taking away a big chunk of the domestic scene. A big chunk.
Yeah.
Even Ford. Ford jumping into the import scene. GM jumping into the import scene with Ecotec motor. They had money to pour in. They couldn't afford to not be in it. They couldn't afford to not be in it. And that was all because of the import guys, the Mazdas and the Toyotas and the Hondas.
All right.
The,
I got another question, man. This is, oh my God, you're killing it right now, bro. You know, the way that you're saying it is the way that I think about everything in our community. I think that as a collective, we all think that the ceiling is a lot lower than it really is. But your actual proof that you can have corporate sponsors, you can have, you know, the $100,000, $500,000, whatever you want for sponsorships. So how did that era even happen? Was it because of the movie, everything? Was it just like the perfect storm, or do you think that that's something that you could actually recreate these days?
Man, I don't know. I mean, the movie had a big part in it, but the scene had already started, you know, in the West Coast and also in the East Coast. The scene had already started. We had already made a move. There was already a culture.
Yeah.
You know, Naira had 8 races a year. Then you had RDRC. Then you had Drag Wars.
Mm-hmm.
You had all of this, and 90% was grassroots racing. You know, everybody had a full-time job, and then on the weekends they would go out banging cars and gears and all that stuff. And some racetracks were smart. They started promoting the events. A lot of the racetracks were afraid to promote the events, so they were afraid to spend, you know, $15,000 on flyers because they were not sure if, you know, they would attract at the gate, you know. But once they saw it coming, they were like, oh shit, we'll spend $25,000 on flyers, TV ads, and radio ads.
Yeah.
Then magazines came in. Magazines were starting to cover the events, pictures. I can't even imagine what would have happened if there was social media.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine, you know. But that was our social media in a way. And so was it a perfect storm? Maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
But also for everybody, including us, it was all uncharted territories.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, a new event was an uncharted territory for both the sponsors, the racers, as well as the promoter and the racetracks, you know. But fortunately for us and for the sport, it worked out because stands would be, I mean, when you came to Englishtown, it was packed, standing room only. There was no room for anything. We didn't see the same amount of enthusiasm at the racetrack, for example, in Texas or even in the West Coast maybe,
mm-hmm.
as we saw in the East Coast. For some reason, the East Coast racetracks filled up the stands more.
Yeah.
I might be wrong about that, but that's the feeling, that's the impression that it left with me. You know, that's the impression I have. But if you want to call it a perfect storm, maybe. Can it be replicated? Absolutely. There's no reason why it cannot be.
Yeah, let's hear about that.
There's no reason why. All you need to do is to have one dedicated series. You can't have. We had issues back then with. I'm very open about this.
Uh-huh.
I do not like NHRA.
Okay.
They destroyed the sport. They destroyed the sport. And I have few friends that work for NHRA. They're still my friends. And I'll say to them, you guys destroyed the import scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I say it on my Instagram. I have no problem saying it. I don't sugarcoat what I'm saying. I don't sugarcoat anything. I say it as it is.
I love it.
And so NHRA was very threatened by the import scene. NHRA and GM. Those two names is what destroyed the import scene. So you can't have NHRA involved. NHRA can't even take care of their own domestic stuff right now. So you don't want NHRA involved in the sport of import racing. But you can have the, you know, people who have. You can get a few people from Naira, guys who ran Drag Wars back at the time, RDRC. Get them together, no conflicts, only one vision,
mm-hmm.
with maybe 10 or 12 races a year, with a championship. With the prize money, TV package would help.
Mm-hmm.
but then with social media, you really don't need TV package, to be honest with you. Everything will be, like you and
YouTube, yeah,
just, yeah, YouTube
influencers
and
or
all that.
whatever.
But you have to have a legitimate series with rules, very
Uh
important,
huh.
um, and and uh, and people have to be willing to build cars as per the rules. And then when you have that, and you have the series and the trophies and the championships and the prize money at each weekend, plus bonuses for the year,
Yeah.
it can be replicated, and sponsors may come back in.
So
But
I'm sorry to cut you off. What
yeah,
tap into the prize money? What is some of the prize money from back in the day? What were some of the pockets look like?
for us, for example, a winning weekend just in contingencies was $15,000.
Oh shit. Okay.
Just from winning. Between I remember in the beginning, uh, as long as you had, like, if you put a Goodyear sticker on and you weren't running Goodyears, you still got your $200 or $500. But Goodyear got smart as hell. Wait a second. If you want our contingency money, you have to run Goodyear stickers, Goodyear tires, as an example.
Gotcha.
Um, but then you had issues with people that had, sponsorship with maybe Mickey Thompson.
Okay.
So they couldn't run a Goodyear, which is okay because Mickey Thompson would pay them anyway. But we had, we were making as much as $15,000 on a winning weekend, but that was in a pro year. I'm sure the other classes were a little bit less, but it was still. But I had a problem with that because what they did was, first place was in a full field. First place was $5,000, I think, for the pro year, and then second place would be like $1,500. No, they shouldn't do that. Take the 5,000, make it 3,000.
Yeah.
And pay all the way down to eighth place. So at least the person who's in eighth place at least pays for the hotel.
Got you.
You can't deny the guys who were in seventh and eighth or ninth because, you can't have one or two or three teams carrying the sport.
So you feel like if you're in the 1 through 3rd place, that the competition is so close that from 4th to 10th, they don't even have a chance to get close to that. So if you want to encourage them to keep on trying, you have to give them something.
Yes.
Got you.
Yes. And then you spread the money out, and it's just it's for the good of the sport.
Got you.
That wasn't happening. I mean, I think back then they should have even paid for just qualifying.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you qualified because you were there. I mean, it may have not been a lot of money, but hey, it was something. It would have been something, even if it was $200.
Yeah.
It would have been something. But when you have 4 or 5 teams always winning weekend after weekend and making all the money. I mean, looking at it from for the love of the sport, that's not fair.
Got you.
It's not cool. But I was proposing a lot of that stuff, but it didn't work because it wasn't, a lot of people say, some of the guys that came in second, third, or first would say, oh no, why are you cutting my paycheck?
Yeah.
Why, but that's how I see it. I think the prize money should have been spread out more to help the smaller teams. At the same time, though, I mean, I'll tell you a very good story. And some may remember the story because at a driver's meeting the day after, somebody made fun of it. And it was the first race of 2007, 2004 when we had unveiled the Circuit City sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the first race of the year at Phoenix. And I came to the racetrack and I was wearing my shirt and I had the Circuit City emblem on the top. And I hadn't seen some of the guys since SEMA. So they were all hanging out in one of the golf carts. And I'm like, hey guys, what's up? And the person sitting, I forgot his name actually, sitting on the golf cart with his feet up on the top, wearing flip-flops, and his sock had a hole in it. His toe was going through the sock. So as I'm walking, all I see is a toe coming out of a sock and his feet up on the top on the dashboard of the golf cart. So, so he's like, he goes, hey man, he goes, are you ever going to leave any sponsors for us to take? I just looked at him. Kid you not. I reached down to my pocket, took out my wallet. I gave him $5. I said, do me a favor. I go down the street to Walmart and buy yourself a new socks with no holes and look presentable. Then maybe somebody will come and approach you. But when you're out like that with your toe sticking out of a sock, who's going to come and get you? Hey, can you represent us? So it was the next day, and it was a meeting going on, and we were talking about attracting sponsors, and there was a question, and it was just the racers and the people from. This was an NHRA event, so it was Jim Skelly and Javier Ortega, Gary Roche, and all the racers. Mm-hmm. And somebody mentioned, he goes, well, there's a rumor going around that Ara is going to buy everybody new pairs of socks. I'm like, yeah, I'll buy everybody new pairs of socks. If it means that it's going to bring money into the sport, no problem, I'll do it. But you can't walk around with ripped socks, flip-flops, your toes hanging out, and expect to be represented. You can't. That's not an image. Yeah. And if you're going to do that, don't put your feet up in the air like that so everybody can see your toes. So, I mean, so you had a lot of talent.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, a lot of talent. Really passionate talent. Excellent drivers, really good mechanics. But then what was hurting the sport was that.
Yeah.
But you can't blame them. So I used to go to companies and say, hey, look, at the time NHRA came to me and they said, hey, look, you had, I think it was O'Reilly. O'Reilly wanted to become a sponsor, a title sponsor. Mm-hmm. NHRA lost the Summit sponsorship, and they were looking for a sponsor.
Gotcha.
So I think it was O'Reilly I think it was O'Reilly. O'Reilly comes in and goes, look, we will sponsor you guys if we get on the street floor cars. So NHRA came to me and said, hey, look, this is the deal. We want them, but they want to be on your race car. I said, no, I don't want them on my race car. There's four other teams. Why don't you distribute the money to them? I just lost a train of thought. What I was going to say, but
the sponsorship, the O'Reillys, they wanted to sponsor NHRA, but
they wanted to sponsor, become a title sponsor, but as well they wanted to be on a car, but they wanted to be on a winning car.
Gotcha.
They didn't, and I went to them. I said, listen, I go, why don't you take a young racer, right, and mold them, and teach them. These are young kids. They don't know any better. They're not trying to be rebels. It's just they don't know. If they're walking around with, maybe a shirt hanging out and maybe mismatching shirts with their team, it's okay. Teach them.
Yeah.
And then take them in and mold them. That's what, if you look at Kawasaki with motocross, if you look at, Formula One, what do? They take these 11 and 12-year-olds that are racing go-karts and they put them in a contract, put them in their development team. And then by the time the kids are 16, 17, yes, granted they don't have, normal teenage years because they're at the racetrack every single day. But when they're 17, 18, 19, they're already groomed to become, a corporate image and making gazillion dollars. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying gazillion dollars for the import racers, but that's what they should have done. They should have taken, NHRA should have taken the money and say, hey, look, we have 3 young teams here that have potential to make a big impact in the next 10 years. don't look at Ara. Ara is an old guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to leave the sport in a few years. But there's 5 other teams that are 15 years younger that have 15-year lifespan in the sport. But, that's not what they wanted. But NHRA didn't even push for that. Anyway, that NHRA as a biggest drag racing sanctioning body should have thought about that. They should have seen that, but no, they wanted to squash the sport anyway. So they squashed the sport because they were afraid of losing money to the domestics, which they were. Sponsors were leaving the domestics and trying to get to the import scene because of the impact that we made. We were making a lot of noise, The import guys were making a lot of noise between the racing, the bikini contests, the whole culture, the DJs, and it wasn't a racetrack. It was like 3 days of a party. You had the racing, you had the bikini contest, you had the DJs, you had you had car shows, you had burnout contest, you had
the hotels at night.
You had everything, and domestic money was going to the import scene, and NHRA was very afraid, and so they killed the sport. But sponsorship wise, I think we all made mistakes with not grooming the younger teams at the time. Of course, then you had 2007, 2008 with the financial meltdown. But in 2004, 2005, I already felt the effects. I already felt that money was drying up in the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
I felt it with Circuit City and Streetglow. And talking to them and talking to that circle, I was very fortunate to be able to hook up with large companies, and I was seeing where money was flowing, and I started seeing the money drying up from sports, anything motorsports.
Got you. One of the most critical parts to any build is the clutch. Without a proper clutch, you won't be able to get that power to the wheels. No one wants to spend hundreds of dollars on a clutch that won't hold their power for more than a few races or spirited drives. It is important to go with a clutch that you know that you can count on. That's why many people choose Action Clutch over the competition. Action Clutch offers OEM replacements all the way to 1200 plus horsepower that can be found everywhere from street cars, drag cars, and even Formula Drift vehicles. Action Clutch makes all their kits here in the USA with material sourced locally in Los Angeles. Not only is Action Clutch made in the USA, they have also made a strong focus this year to give back a percentage of sales back to the community during these hard times, providing impacted families with groceries and other necessities. Contact Action Clutch today with whatever you need and you will receive the family treatment. You can find their product line at actionclutch.com. If you don't see what you need, please feel free to call them at 323-269-6051. You can also DM them on Instagram at Action Clutch or email them at sales@actionclutch.com. If you need help choosing a kit, Action Clutch can get you set up with the right kit for your build. Okay, man, we're gonna have to make that last part a separate video because there's so much knowledge in that. I feel every time I go to the track and I see all of these teams, I look at them and say, you guys, this whole atmosphere can be like Formula One. It can be, but we all have to collectively think the same way. We have to think about the bigger picture, and then when you say about the guys that are taking 5,000 versus 500,000, that person, they're probably just thinking, I need this money right now. But it's best to just hold off for a little while if everybody fights the good fight, and then the import community, even the Honda community, just the Honda community itself can propel itself even higher if everybody was like-minded and they thought about things the same way. But with racing comes ego and pride, and it sounds like that was the same thing that was going on back in the day, that the guys they had too much pride and ego to allow themselves to reach that next level.
Yeah. I mean, it was there. It was there for everybody to grab, but only a few did, and it wasn't because I mean, I looked at it in a certain way. I said to myself, and I would say to my sponsors, I'm a businessman who happens to have a race car. I'm not a race car driver trying to become a businessman. I'm a businessman, and I happen to have a race car. And this is what we can do with the team. And this is where we are. This is where we're going to go. Together, we can definitely go there, but I'm going to go there regardless. And I used to hate it, and I still hate it when somebody says, without the sponsors, I would have never done this. Well, the sponsors don't want to hear that. The sponsor wants to know, a partner wants to know that, wait a second, you were going to do that anyway. I want to be, I want to be part of the journey. I want to be part of the program. But wait a second, so you're telling me that if I pull out, you're going to fold? I don't want that. So I used to not like it when people say, without the sponsors, I couldn't have done this. No, the sponsors don't want to hear that. And the other thing was very important that I did in my program was I had a marketing manager. So I had 2 marketing managers. It cost money, but I was able to work that into the sponsorships. Because I said to the companies, listen, if I'm going to charge you $350,000, if you don't help me with activating the sponsorship, that $350,000 is going to be a waste of money. So we need another, $45,000 to get a manager to activate it, to help manage the sponsorship. Because I don't have time for it, because I'm too busy with the team. I'm busy with the track. I will do everything I can, but I don't have the language, and I don't know the marketing language like a marketing manager would. So for the extra $45,000, which would be nothing, you're going to get maybe another $150,000 value.
Wow.
So what we had was we actually had two agents. Collectively, they were getting almost $8,500 a month.
Oh shit!
So we had an $8,500 a month budget. On one was $4,000 and the other one was $4,500. One was strictly going out and looking for sponsorships, and the other one was taking the sponsorship that we had and they were activating it. So they were, for example, taking advantage of our wins and how to incorporate it into. But what that showed to the sponsors was, hey man, this really is a business. This is not. We're not just slapping a sticker on somebody's race car. I mean, this is serious business. Now we know why he's asking for so much money. So I used to tell people who putting together a PowerPoint, don't be afraid to put big numbers down, because if you put a small number down, they're not going to take you seriously.
Yeah.
And if they can't afford the big number, they're going to say, wait a second, come over here. I want to ask you a question. Why are you asking for so much money? You say, well, because it's going to cost, $500,000 to bring in the model. It's not just about the racing. A small portion will go to the race car, but a big portion will go into marketing the brand. And if you go, for example, and spend $500,000 on Speed Vision at the time, Speed Vision or ESPN commercial, you get 1 second airtime. But you spend $500,000 with me, and throughout the year, I'll probably give you 5 minutes.
You mean collectively with you on ESPN?
Yeah. When we're winning and if we're on TV for 10 seconds, 12 seconds, 15 seconds, 25 seconds, collected 5 minutes. At the end of the 5 minutes is worth, $7 million.
Yeah.
So you just paid $500,000, but you got $7 million value out of it, just from ESPN alone.
Got you. Wow.
So that's why it costs money to get on a good program. It's not just the team, the market, the display, the trailers, the presentation, and the press releases that go out on a Friday before the race and the first thing Monday night. People were getting from us. You can ask a lot of people from back then. We were sending out 2 press releases a week. One was on a Friday, before the race and what the team was up to and where we were headed. And of course, was talking about the sponsors.
Yeah.
And then, of course, on first thing on Monday morning, how the weekend went. And that was press releases going out to everybody. So it was a bombardment of that. So that cost money.
Now, those press releases, what form did they come in? Was it an email or?
There were emails.
Got you. All right.
At the time, emails. It was on our website also, but it was on emails. So, we got a hold of a big mailing list.
Yeah.
And I mean, even our competitors were getting the press release.
Yeah.
We were in everybody's face, but that cost money. So sponsors were willing to pay for that because that's one thing less. That's one less thing they had to do, and then at the same time, it justified why we were asking for so much money.
Now, in this day and age, a great parallel for that would be a YouTube video. So if you have a YouTube series for your channel for the car, the weekend of, the Friday before, the Monday after, right. I mean, it doesn't take much to come out with a video and have it out, but it's just the consistency of it.
Yes, consistency. Week after week, week after week, the press releases went out, good or bad,
Mm-hmm.
So, that's why it was a business.
Yeah.
The business of racing has nothing to do with racing. Business of racing is it's not just being at the racetrack and winning.
Yeah.
Or breaking a record.
Man.
It helped us a lot. We were winning a lot. And when we won, I was getting interviewed a lot. And when we were getting interviewed a lot, of course, people saw Circuit City and Street Glow. And, there were actuators that I think NHRA hired in 1 year. I have a spreadsheet of that one, actually. I think it was 2005. And they hired somebody who would literally take, pause all the interviews and all the events and then count down, write down when he saw Street Glow, how many seconds it was. And when he saw Summit, how many seconds it was. And made a list. Yeah. And we were on TV longer than Street Glow brand got more TV time than the Summit, even though Summit was a title sponsor. Fortunately, we were winning a lot, so we were getting a lot of interviews.
Wow.
And that was worth a lot of money for Street Glow.
Yeah.
So when Circuit City came on board, I'm like, here, this I didn't make this up. This is what the banks. This is what this comes straight from ESPN.
Those are the analytics, which guys listening, the analytics for pretty much everything is very readily available for you now. If you have Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, man, I hope you guys are taking notes right now. You're dropping some gems, brother.
Thank you.
Definitely, man.
But so that's all that may be the boring stuff. The cool stuff was the racing and the camaraderie and the trash talking and the shit talking and everybody getting upset at each other every once in a while. But at the end of the day, it was a lot of high fives.
Yeah.
We formed a very good camaraderie with a lot of the teams. There were, honestly, if you were a jerk, you didn't last. If you were a jerk, you didn't last. We saw outsiders that came in from other sports. They thought that they can come in and buy themselves in or muscle their way in. Didn't work. They just either didn't click, with the culture, didn't appreciate it, or they didn't do well, and they're just like, oh shit, these guys are serious. They look like kids, but they're they're 4-bangers and 6-bangers, but oh man, what's this new turbo technology? What do we do with this? We turn the boost up and we blow up motors. I mean, what do we do with this? They didn't realize that, hey, there's you have to figure out. I mean, we're all in uncharted territories. We're making shitload of horsepower, but it was also very easy to blow up motors left and right.
Yeah.
We had, God knows, I mean, you have to talk to the track guys, but there were a lot of oil downs because we were all pushing motors left and right. We were just pushing everything. We were giving the cars to track everything we can possibly, because a lot of times we didn't know any better. But we learned and we learned fast. I mean, the industry learned fast. The downside for that was the sport got very expensive very fast, and that was a bad thing. It got it it it, it got very expensive and very fast.
As far as expensive, as far as the parts and technology.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, I don't know the history of drag racing, but I could imagine like Pro Stock, for example, if you want to take NHRA drag racing, even Funny Car and Top Fuel. It took years and years, gradually making little bit increments, small increments. In import scene, we were adding hundreds of horsepower a month, and yeah, maybe the motor took it, but guess what? The drivetrain didn't take it. So now companies had to build, better drive shafts to put up with the horsepower. Tires, we didn't have the right size tires for our cars, even the front wheel drive cars, so the manufacturers had to come up with different compounds, and they had to keep up with us. They had to keep up with us. We were way ahead of we were moving extremely fast, ET wise and technology wise and horsepower wise. And then the racetracks had to be able to prep the racetracks better for us, because number one, the cars started to go really fast, and there were multiple accidents that were very easily avoidable, because racetracks didn't take the horsepower that these cars can make very seriously, and it's no big deal, but people end up into the wall for no reason, at least a few times. I mean, I had a bad wreck, but that was strictly my fault. That had nothing to do with racer. That was just us, me.
Yeah.
That was error. But a few other cars, Manny Cruz, DRT was working on their car at the time. It was in 2002, Atco Raceway. We had no business racing that day because the temperatures were really bad. The track was really bad. And no matter how they prepped it, it just wasn't enough. But NHR insisted that we race. And then Manny comes out with us, and we avoided the wall. But Manny came in and hit the wall really hard, destroyed the car, lost the car for no reason. And then after that, NHR comes, okay, we're going to cancel the event. Really? We've been telling you to cancel it for the last 7 hours.
Wow.
But because there was TV package, ESPN would say, oh, no, wait a second. No. If we have to come back tomorrow, it's going to cost you an additional, $10,000 an hour. NHR would say, oh, no, we're not doing that. We have to run the event today, even though the conditions were not good.
Shit. So let's talk about when you started realizing that the temperature was changing in the community, and how you were able to foresee that and what ended up happening.
Oh, what do you mean temperature? Like,
as far as you saw that the big sponsors were starting to pull out. You said that everything was running too fast. Just everybody wasn't prepared for where it was headed to.
Yeah, I mean, and that was a financial thing. I mean, for a lot of the teams, the sponsorship wasn't there for them to be able to afford to go fast consistently. So you had inconsistencies, a lot of inconsistencies. So, for example, in NHRA Pro Stock, the only thing I'll say Pro Stock is because our class, the Pro Rear class, the chassis and the platform weight, the way the cars are built, are in the same as the Pro Stock cars, except they ran 500 cubic inch motors and we ran import cars,
Gotcha.
Import motors. But they would have 16 cars running within a tenth of each other, whereas we would have 8 cars that ran within 2 seconds of each other, and top 3 cars would run very consistent, within a tenth or two, but the rest would be like a second behind us or even 2 seconds. So for those guys to get the parts, have enough parts to be able to push the motors to go as fast as we were, was extremely difficult without the sponsorships. So when they had the opportunity for sponsors and they didn't capitalize on it, and then sponsors started to go away because of, I think they foresaw the financial meltdown coming. in 2008. For those teams, it was already over with. It was over.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, NHRA was gone too. NHRA crushed the import scene. NHRA bought the series from Nopi, NDRA, which I was a big fan of, and we ran Nopi every year, every single race. And NHRA came over and bought Nopi, and then they crushed Nopi. The only reason they bought Nopi is so they can kill it. That's the only reason, because of the culture. They were afraid of it taken away from their domestic. Their domestic racers were scared shitless of the import racers. Scared shitless. And I don't care what any domestic racer says. I will tell you, they were scared shitless. NHRA was, and NHRA was for their own community. They were afraid of the import scene. So they bought Nopi, and they just crushed. They got Nopi, and that was it. He went away.
So let's talk about one of the bigger races that you had, where both of the Street Go cars did a certain pass, man.
There were a couple. There were a couple of epic races with both cars with our other driver George, who was a very dear friend of mine. We had some epic, really good races, and we had some sad races. I don't know which one you're talking about.
The 6 second one.
The 6 seconds. So when that's a good story. That in the early 2000, of course, the pro rear class was starting to get bigger, and we were going faster. 730s, 740s, 720s. Middle of the year, middle of the season, we were running 720s. There were a few other cars running 720s, but there was one car, and I hate NHRA for doing this. They created one class. They created a class for the V8 cars. And there was one car, and it was a Turbonetic sponsored Celica with a Toyota V8 in it, and a very close friend of mine, Craig Paisley. He's now in the West Coast, but he's an East Coast guy, New York. He was building a Toyota truck with a V8, but his program went a little bit south with the motor, and they had to switch to the 2JZ, which was a very, very good decision. But the V8 of the Turbonetics car remained, and they raced all by themselves every single weekend, and they were promoted as the winningest team. But they were the only goddamn car on the field. They would qualify number one, and they would win. They were the only car in the field, and they claimed to be 10 wins in a row. Assholes! You have no racer. Sorry, maybe I can't.
You can say whatever you want.
I'm like, I used to go to NHL. I'm like, are you kidding me? How do you promote a winning streak like that when there's no other cars in the field? Why is there even a V8 in there? You shouldn't have a V8.
Yeah.
But that's a whole another story. So here comes. So now I'm furious. Okay. I love Turbonetics. Here, I'm wearing a Turbonetics shirt right now. Turbonetics has been with us. I haven't. Even if I race my bicycle right now, I pretend to have a Turbonetics turbo on there. Because mentally I go faster.
Yeah.
But they had this Turbonetics sponsored V8 car with a non-domestic racer. They went and picked up these brothers who were really nice guys from Florida, Scranton brothers, and from the Mustang world. So they came in, and the Celica, they bought the Celica off of somebody, I don't know who, but it had the V8, like I said. And so cars are starting to get faster, maybe 710, 708. We started running 708 a couple of times, and I could start smelling the sixes. Now everybody's like, who's going to be the first in the six? Who's going to be the first in the six? And it was October of 2008. Saturday, qualifying. We came up to the line. Scranton went out first, and they ran a 702. Now, keep in mind, even the V8 had not run as sixes yet, right? So everybody was expecting the V8 to run the sixes because they had the horsepower based on the mile an hour that they were pulling compared to the 2JZs that we had and the other cars on the field in our class. By the way, our class, the pro rear, was a pretty competitive class. I mean, we had racers,
Gotcha.
unlike the V8, which was the only one in the class.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine that. I can't even imagine. I don't know where the motivation would come from. I'm like, we won.
Yeah.
I mean, we won. Oh, we qualified number one.
Yeah.
Number one qualifiers again. Yeah, we won again. Farts. Anyway, I wanted to build a V8 just to fucking beat the shit out of him. In fact, you know what I did? I had my chassis builder put a V8 plate, make a plate for my car, so if I wanted to put a V8 and just so I can go race him in that class and maybe you know make him maybe come off their stupid high horse.
Yeah.
Whatever. So anyway, October of 2008, that weekend they ran, and then we came out. We ran. We came up and we ran, and the car felt good, banging through the gears. And I think I heard what I heard on the radio after the run, and it was like there was like a lot of noise in the frequency. So like I thought I heard a 6.
Oh.
You know, I wasn't sure. I thought I heard a 6, and I came around the exit, pulled over, turned the car off, came to the weigh station, and the guys are like running. I'm like, somebody's running 698. I'm like, are you fucking 698? Holy shit, we were the first to run the 6s. I mean, I came back and like, and you know, big hugs from the teammates and other competitors and fans and just family and sponsors. And I don't think we were expected to be the first.
Yeah.
But we were. So that was, you know, that will go down in history for me and for the team, that we ran a 698. The mile an hour was only 194, but nobody at the time had run anything even in high 190s yet. So we ran a 698, 195. Then that same day, the other car with George also ran a 6 seconds. So we put both cars into the 6s that weekend.
The other Street Glow car.
Yeah, at the time, it was not a Street Glow sponsored yet.
Gotcha.
It was yellow and the white with a Red Bull on the side. So so we got both cars. The team got both cars into the 6s. That was October of 2002.
Okay.
And so we became. And then the other epic one was later in 2003 with the Street Glow sponsorships. We were the first 200 mile an hour side by side import race, and it was the 2 cars.
And both in the 6s.
Yeah, both in the 6s, but as well in the 200s. Prior to that, we were never in the 200s.
Wow.
We were 198, 197, 196, 195, and then when we started breaking to the 680s, then we started, you know, more horsepower and tuning up the boost. And Turbonetics was with us from those days. So I'll always say Turbonetics was the first turbo in the 6s.
Yeah.
And you know, the one thing I used to do, talking about sponsors on radio shows or any shows that I would do, any interviews I would do, I would never mention sponsors. I would always talk about the guys on the team. You know, Bert Gertner, Kevin, Louie, Scotty, Mikey, George, and my agent used to call me like, "Look, the sponsors are pissed off at you." I'm like, "Why?" Just because you didn't mention their name. I'm like, "No, go tell them, go tell them to fuck off." Because if it wasn't for the guys, that car wouldn't have made it to the racetrack. You know, they weren't going to win. So I'll talk about the sponsors every single day for the week, but come Saturday, Sunday, I'll only talk about the guys, because they made this car go down the racetrack. You know, yeah, I could have choked and I could have screwed up a lot, and I have, but thank God majority of the time I didn't. And what I did is I showed everybody what the team did.
Yeah.
So when we put a car together, whether it was the right combination of the horsepower and the clutch, by not choking, by making the car go down the track, putting out the number, I was able to show everybody what the team did.
Yeah.
So I wasn't there to talk about Toyota or Turbonetics or Street Clothes. No, they're getting what they want. But Saturday, Sunday, I talk about the team.
Did you have this conversation with them for them to understand that?
In the beginning, I didn't, but then they understood.
Got you.
They're like, they understood.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, man.
Because I was doing what I had to do, and beyond, all week long.
Yeah.
I was always the one that was like, coming up with ideas. I was the one emailing them. I'm like, hey, let's try this, let's try that. I was constantly in touch with the marketing department. Let's do this, let's do that. Because I wasn't the one I'm not a mechanic. I don't know anything about fixing race cars. In fact, they never wanted me around the race car because they were afraid I was going to break it. I wasn't even allowed to touch the tools, They were like, get on the quad and we'll call you when it's time to race. Go. They're like, go.
Oh, man.
And, so with the sponsors, it was like, so I would do a lot with the marketing department during the week and then after the racing. But that Saturday, Sunday, it was for us. It was for the team to get together and see what we can do with the work that we did or they did during the week and how we can put it together and hopefully come away with a win. And a lot of times we did, we won, in 2003, we won with both cars. We won a championship and a second place in both series, NOPI and NDRA and NHRA. So in NDRA, we were first and second. NHRA, we were in first and second. We were crisscrossing the country, hitting both series because the way they worked, because the series had such a conflict with each other, they would purposely put racing, so far apart that they would force racers who weren't funded well to pick one or the other.
Ah, got you.
And that's another topic I would like to talk about.
Yeah.
So, but luckily for us, with our funding and sponsorships, we were able to hit both. So we were going back and forth. We hit every single race we can. We hit, and we walked away with a championship in both series and second place in both series. So we cleaned up. That year, we cleaned up. I mean, if that was a Las Vegas table, we cleaned house. We took all the chips with the prize money and the sponsorship, the championship money at the end of the year and all that.
Now, do you think it was a collective of these events, or it was one series that was pitting each other against each other? So if one's going to do one on the East Coast, the other would do it on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's what they were doing. In fact, at the end of the year, I would have two phones. I would be talking to NHRA one phone, and I would be on with NDRA on the other phone, because neither one would release their schedule, because they wanted to see who would release first and see, based on that schedule, if they can schedule a conflicting event.
Oh, shit.
You know what I'm saying? So I would be like, hey, you have to release your schedule. Hey, you have to release schedule. And they'd be like, no, I'm not going to release it until he releases it. They release it, and vice versa. I'm like, guys, you can't do that to the racers. And there were many races, many events that conflicted.
Yeah.
And racers had to pick between one or the other. And we did that a couple of times, and we did it based on our points. If we had points if we can afford to lose points in NDRA, we went to NHRA. But at the end, I'm like, you know what? Screw NHRA. I'm going to do NDRA no matter what. So we did every single NDRA event, and we didn't do every single NHRA event because of their tactics.
Got you. You could see that they weren't in it for the culture?
No, they were not in it for the culture at all. At all.
Got you.
No, NDRA, NYRA, IDRC, Drag Wars, it was all culture.
Yeah.
I mean, drag racing was big, but it wasn't just about the drag racing. It was everything.
Yeah.
It was an event. With NHRA, they it's just about drag racing. No, not an import scene. Maybe the domestic side. Not an import scene. Import scene, it's everything. You got, you have the car shows. You have the bikini contests. You have the DJs and the bands, and
The vendors.
event,
Yeah.
yeah, everything. I mean, then and you have the drag racing. So it was a culture,
Yeah.
and NHRA didn't see it that way, and 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 GM didn't see it. I mean, I have a good friend, Gary Gardella. He's an East Coast guy. He's a New Jersey guy. He used to race Hondas, and then GM picked him up, and he moved over to GM because he was constantly beating up on the GM boys with his Honda, and they decided to put him on their team so they get stopped, so he can help him win.
So
And so even though GM had an import racer on their team, GM was also of in, had a part in killing the sport.
I got you. So let's get to Warren Johnson, man. I got to hear this story.
So Warren Johnson. So here I am, completely unknown to the domestic world. They don't even know the Solaros weren't even out. So it's not like they were seeing a Solaro on 730s or 720s or even breaking anything. And here I am talking, running my mouth, and I want to match race Warren Johnson and his son Kurt Johnson. And I would even go up to him at NHRA events. I'm like, listen, I don't know, you don't know me, but my name is Ara Arslanian, and I want to match race you, and I think it'll be great for the sport. And he said to me, "Oh, you run the turbos?" Yeah. He was you know what that's like watching paint dry. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, it's like watching paint dry. There's people on the stand, they want to hear and smell and feel a race car. I'm like, fuck you. I'm like, so you don't want to race me? Okay, fine. But I kept talking about it, and one day, Hot Rod Magazine editor, I still have his phone number actually, Matt King, I believe his name is. He contacts me. He's like, so the word is around that you want to do a match race with Warren Johnson. I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, what if we sponsor it? How much do you want? I said, zero. I said, zero. I don't want to get paid. Just tell me when and where. I want no money. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, because Warren Johnson wants $75,000. I'm like, fine. Pay him $75,000. I don't want any money. I just want to race him. So they arranged it. Warren Johnson actually accepted it. We go to an event called Extreme Rush, Street Glow Extreme Rush, twice a year at NHRA events. And Turbo Magazine, Hot Rod Magazine, we put both the Street Glow Solaris and both of the Warren Johnson cars.
Uh-huh.
Warren Johnson and Kurt Johnson. Kurt Johnson had the KISS team, band,
Yes.
the KISS band. So they had the whole KISS team. They came on board. I met with the KISS people, the band, and they're like, yeah, we're on this.
What?
We put both cars, did whole photo shoots, did all the photo shoots. Hot Rod Magazine prints it out, puts it out. The Hot Rod Magazine for that month was the biggest selling publication ever. And guess what happened? They pulled out.
No shit.
GM said no.
Wow.
After all that, GM said no. After the magazine came out, I still have the magazine. And all that talk and all this, $75,000 for Warren Johnson, $75,000 for Kurt Johnson, just to do best out of three. And nothing. So I was really bummed. And I had a talk with Warren Johnson. He goes, well, it wasn't my, I didn't want to do it in the first place. But I kind of got forced into it. I'm like, you asked for $150,000. You want $150,000, and Turbo Magazine was going to, Hot Rod Magazine was doing it, and it was going to be called Hot Rod Magazine Presents Import versus Domestic.
Oh, wow.
And they did the whole thing, right? The whole magazine and the whole a whole article on the similarities and the not similarities, and you know, and Warren Johnson is like, it's like watching paint dry. He said the same thing for the magazine. He said to me, and they quoted that, So that didn't happen. But instead, Englishtown, they said, hey, how about we hold an event and we'll get one of our local pro stock guys. We'll do a match race at Englishtown at the during the Summer Nationals, which is basically an import, huge import event once a year. I'm like, oh yeah, great. And so there was a guy from Long Island. His name is Bob Benza, really cool guy. So it was going to be best out of 3, and we did have an arrangement. So the arrangement was, and mind you, ET wise, at the time we were running 676 was our best time. We were consistently running 682, 677, somewhere in that range. And so were the pro stocks. The pro stocks were in that about the same range. So Bob Benza and I had a meeting at Englishtown that weekend, and we came to an arrangement. We want to make it best out of 3. We don't want either car to just go out and win the first run and then the second one. We want it to be so that, first run, one guy wins, and the second one, the second, and then the third one was going to be
all out, yeah.
All out. And so I'm like, just so you know, I'm not going in first. I'll just stay at the light. I'm not going in first. He goes, well, I'm not either. I'm like, all right, then I guess it's going to be a show. So turn the first light on, second light on, neither one's going in. The starter was like, back up. So we both back up. He goes in, I go in. We take off, and damn it, my transmission broke.
Oh, shit.
And we never break. We rarely broke transmission. My transmission broke on that. We had a tire shake, and it broke, and I coasted. Mid-track on, I coasted. And all right, no big deal. Second run, we did the same thing, but this time for legitimately his transmission broke. So now we each broke transmission. So even though that wasn't part of the plan, we each broke a transmission on a run. So now it came down to the third and final run. So the temperature wasn't good. It was extremely hot. The track was getting really slippery, and I said to the guys, I'm like, put everything you got in the car. We are not losing this race. There's no way we're losing this race. And in those days, I used to do big past half track burnouts, and I do my burnout all the way almost to the end. I'm backing up, and that's another story I'll tell you in a second. So I'm backing up, and I'm like, we're not losing this race. Lights come down, I take off. The car is doing this. I'm banging gears, and I'm trying to, I'm getting tire shake, and he's doing the same thing, and I just kept backpedaling, and the car was dancing, and we won the race. Like, there's no way we were either going to win or I was going to hit the wall.
Yeah.
It's just, there's no losing. It was either wall or the win. Yeah. So we won the race, but you know what? Bob Benza was a cool guy because he stepped up to the plate for the pro stock, for the domestic guys. And Warren Johnson and GM, and as big as an outfit they were, they chickened out. Bob Benza, who was a local guy, he stepped up.
Wow.
So we put on a good show, and that was a great import versus domestic. And that should have been after that. I even proposed to NHRA, forget the match race between Warren Johnson and I. How about we take 4 of the top import cars, and we take 4 of the top pro stock cars, and we do a race, regular race, no match racing, no BS, nothing. We just do 4 of the top 4 and the 4 of the, top 4 of the import and top 4 of the domestics. But they could not get the domestics guy. It was a lose-lose proposition for them because it's a 500 cubic inch, this, that, whatever. And but at the same time, we were both making about the same horsepower. Both cars weighed the same. Both had the same wheelbase. Both running the same tires. Both running the same transmissions. It was just a matter of different motors. And import guys had way less experience than the domestic guys, way less. But then I'll tell you what, if you put when you put our cars on a national NHRA event, when they knew how to prep the track for the top few cars, we were 10 feet, almost two tenths faster. We could put more power into the ground and make it down the track. If you put their cars with all the experience they had into one of our prepped racetracks, because they weren't prepped as well for import, they would have never been going down the racetrack. Never.
Got you.
So and
go ahead.
No, there was one thing I was going to say about the
burnouts.
Yeah, so the burnout. So I used to do burnouts so long that at one point I remember racers used to come say, "Hey, Ara, you doing a long burnout today?" I'm like, "Yeah." Because, "All right, we'll just wait for you to come back on your way back then," because a lot of them did a shorter burnout. So I would do my half track burnout, and as I was backing up, they would start doing the burnout, because otherwise what was happening was when they didn't know I wasn't doing that, they would do the burnout, I do the burnout all the way out there. By the time I come back, their tires are already cold, you know? Their tires are already cold or whatever. They're sitting there waiting for me to back up, you know? Meanwhile, I was backing up on full track. And so eventually it was like, they would ask me, "You doing a long burnout?" A couple times I had to say, no, short. And it came to the point where Mickey Thompson was our sponsor. So there were two engineers that came to the track, Mike and Mike. So we used to call them M&M.
Yeah.
So they would be like, "You're killing the tires. You have to cut down the burnouts. You have to cut down the burnouts," because my burnouts were so long that I was passing the performance that the tires could offer us.
Yeah.
I'm like, but why don't you make me a tire that we can't. You have to cut down the burnouts. I'm like, fuck. So the worst part of my drag racing was when I had to cut my burnouts short. You know, I had to cut them down to where the tires didn't, exceed whatever temperatures they wanted them to reach during a burnout. And but around that time is when Abel would come to me or would say, "Hey, what are you doing today? Long one or a short one?" I'm like, "No, today I'm doing a short one." So we do together.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. We developed such good friendship with all the racers that we all talked with each other. Like, okay, like this one, for example, I was going to do a long burnout. I was going to do a short, but I don't want them to wait. I don't want to kill their chances. I'm going to do a long burnout, so you guys wait a bit. Or I'm going to do a short burnout. Or if there was a problem with one of the other cars that couldn't come up to the line and it was time for qualifying or time for run, we would like hold back. We'd like give them another 4 or 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. The guys, the track guys would be pissed off at us. But hey, do the fans, the people on the stand want to see one car go down the track, or do they want to see two cars go down the track? So if you want to disqualify me for waiting for my competitor, go ahead, disqualify me. But I'm going to wait for my competitor.
Wow. Now, did you do the long burnout to put on a show?
At first, well, it became like that, but I also enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah.
And then it became like, it became that, the monster burnout. I had to see who was, half track.
Yeah.
When I opened the door, I wanted to see people sitting at the last few, like I didn't just want to see the people the first, 200 feet. I want to see, 1,000 feet out. So it became that, and also in the beginning we didn't have. So when we set up the cars, I would come through the burnout and go through the gears and just keep my foot, and I'm at 9,200 RPMs. And the engine Bert would be on my ears. My engine. He'd be like screaming. And I'm like, nothing, So they start putting a switch so that it restricts it to like 6,500 RPM. So I had a switch that was for 6,500 RPM that I would have to turn off when I backed up. So I have the full RPM, the full range of RPM on the motor. Just so I don't kill the motor.
Yeah.
Not that we were killing motors, but, still.
Damn.
Motor. The engine guy was our engine guy. Bert was very meticulous with his engines, and that was his only job.
Yeah.
Was to build motors. And he was very. We called him Picasso. because he would sit there and like you think he was painting, doing a painting because you're like, hey, dude, you think you can build the motor faster?
Yeah.
You know. So we called him Picasso. We put him in his engine room, and he was like a genius.
Yeah.
You take him and put him on a racetrack, he would get all fucked up in the head, and he would be like, you know, he didn't do well under pressure.
Yeah.
But when he was in his little room with his white robe and the engine blocks, with his measuring stuff, and he would be like Picasso.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh man.
So you give him, you know, he would do that, but then you give him a small task like measuring the wheelie bar, and he would fuck it up.
Yeah.
You know? Like how do you get a wrong measuring on the wheelie bar, and you can do that? It's because that moment when there's, you know, pressure and there's racing,
Yeah.
it would just.
Definitely.
I love the guy to death, but we make fun of him about that all the time.
Man, these are such great stories, bro. I really, really appreciate you sharing them with me.
Yeah.
You know, one of the reasons I wanted to have you in here, like I was saying, I wanted to get to know more about the East Coast scene and the OGs of the East Coast. So when you guys were in your heyday, you're racing next to these guys. Can you name some of these guys that were sharing the same passion as you? And you know, maybe some of them are out there to this day that we could go check them out.
Oh yeah, you know, I mean, from the West Coast, you had Steph Papadakis used to race in the front wheel, and then he moved to the rear wheel.
Yeah.
With the rear wheel. So you know, with the AEM car, we had fierce competition between us and the AEM team. Steph Papadakis and his entire team, Mario and all them, we became extremely good friends. Then we had Adam Sarotari from the West, from California, with his NSX.
Mm-hmm.
And you had Abel Ibera with his RX-7 and then the RX-8. We had a blast racing RX Abel. We used to make so much fun of him because the poor guy would always break motors, and he was always on the Pro Jacks and hitting the two-step, and we'd be in the pit and we're like, okay, one more two-step, and he's not going to make it to the starting line, you know. and then, you know, but you know, he would make it to the starting line, but that one extra hit on a two-step on the Pro Jack meant that he's not going to make a full 6-second pass, you know. Like, but RX-7s back then, I think they were a little. Now they're more reliable than, you know, whatever engine parts they have now. The rotaries, but Abel is a big name on the scene. Then you had, although we didn't race with them because they raced in a different class, was the Bergenholtz brothers.
Yeah.
And then in the East Coast we had Craig Paisley, who now lives in the West Coast. Very good friend of mine. An awesome racer. I had by far the most fun with him. He was deadly on a tree. He crushed me on the tree. I mean, thank God his car wasn't as fast as mine. Thank God. Because he crushed me on the tree maybe every single time. If I beat him on a tree, it was only a few times that I can't even remember, obviously. You know, but I do remember all the times that he killed me on the tree. Then you had Manny Cruz also on the East Coast. And then you have also Gary Gardella in the Pro front wheel drive.
Okay.
That was a Pro front with a GM Red Bull car. And also in the Pro front wheel drive was Kubos. Lisa Kubo,
yes.
Gary Kubo out of West Coast. And I don't know if you've seen them lately. They're like
bodybuilders. Yeah, they're ripped.
Are you kidding me? Like Gary, you see Gary?
Yeah.
Oh shit! It's like chiseled. I'm like, what happened? It's like somebody took a carving out of a wall and they made a face out of it that looked like Gary. And but very dedicated. That was a very dedicated group there. And you had the Scranton brothers from Florida, who eventually came out of the V8 class and they put a 2JZ motor and then joined our class. So they were no longer undefeated, by the way, because they had actual competition. When
they were coming from Florida undefeated?
No, they came from the V8 class.
Oh, got you.
Yeah, they went from the V8 class undefeated because they were the only ones to our class, and of course they were no longer undefeated.
Yeah.
uh, and those are those are the names, but uh, um, you had the Mopar guys. And another, may he rest in peace, was Sean Carlson
Yeah.
with the Mopar from back in the day. Incredible fabricator. He built an awesome car back in the day with a Maguire's car at the time, and then the Mopar.
Yeah, that was who built Papadakis's Civic.
Yeah, exactly. He built Papadakis's yellow Honda. Um, then you have also Chris Rado from Pennsylvania, a character. You want to interview a character, you interview Chris Rado.
How do you spell the last name?
Rado.
Rado, Chris Rado. Okay.
Chris Rado from Pennsylvania. He lives in West Coast now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he lives in the West Coast. He raced. He came up with the most innovative stuff. Like the one I remember, even though it was different classes. When the wheelie bars, I think it was possibly Bergenholtz who first came up with the wheelie bar.
Yeah, it was Ron.
So to outdo, I guess the way the wheelie bar works on a front-wheel drive car is maybe a little weirder, different than the rear-wheel car. So what Chris Rado did is he made a wheelie bar that hydraulically would either retract or extend down the track. I forgot.
Oh wow!
But it was bent because it was bent. It was, even though there was no such thing as, even though that was not in the rule book, he built it, and they're like, oh shit, you can't do that. We're gonna put it in the rule book. So, you know what I'm saying? So he made something that they added into the rule book saying, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It was a hydraulic. It retracted, I think.
Wow.
It helped transfer the weight to the front wheels mid-track, I believe. I think it did something like that. But he always raced in the front-wheel drive class. Also with the Toyota four-cylinder. A great guy, big character. You definitely need to talk to him.
Definitely.
Yeah, those are the names.
I love it, man.
Those are the OGs from back then. You have somebody who's active also on his team now is Eric Plebani.
Mm-hmm.
He's from West Virginia. He was a teammate of Chris Rado.
Okay.
Yeah, there's many more.
Yeah, no, man, these are definitely giving me some guys to look up. So let's get to where you decided it was time to exit racing.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was starting to. We put a lot of weeks, years on the road, and we were away from family a lot. And I wanted to really be home with my kids. I wanted to be home. I was gone a lot. I mean, we were gone. I was in the airport every Friday morning.
Wow.
And come home Monday night. I was home Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning I was back in the airport. And that was also another thing is for the team is we traveled together. I went to the sponsor. I'm like, my teammates are more important than I am. If I'm flying, they're flying. So I believe I got extra. I think it was $76,000 a year just from Streetglow, a bunch of sponsors, so that everybody can fly with me. This way the team is fresh.
Yeah.
Because I learned that when you travel across country, you get tired. In a trailer, even if it's a nice, comfortable rig, it's still traveling and it's more time away from the family. And if I'm home with my family, 3 days a week, why shouldn't they be?
Yeah.
So we hired a truck driver, and he was in charge. An awesome guy, Scott Draper. He was Scotty. He was an awesome kid. He loved driving across country with the rig. He took very good care of the trailer, and he became a big part of the race team. Although he wasn't a mechanic at all, but he just became a big part of the race team. But he would travel across the country, and and the team, all of us, 7 of us, would fly together, and so we all got the same amount of rest.
Man, that you guys probably built some memories over that time,
Yeah.
huh?
So back then, so eventually, I wanted to. Uh, I can see everybody was burnt out, and I think I was the most burnt out. Few wanted to continue. To this day, they want to continue.
Yeah.
And so I got the team together. I said, I got the sponsors together. I'm like, I think next year is going to be the last year. So we ended it in 2005. We ended it in a good note. In 2004, I had a bad wreck, Pennsylvania. I was in hospital for a while. I suffered a little bit of a brain head injury and also cardiac injury from the impact. I hit the wall 197 miles an hour and knocked me out and all that stuff. So I was medevaced out, and the doctor said, "Forget it. You're done. You can never be in a car again." I'm like, "No, I'm not done." We continued racing that year. We won the championship that year. That was 2004. 2005, we continued. We won the championship in 2005 as well. And so we ended our team journey on a high note.
I love it, man.
And we're still close with everybody. I'm close with everybody except for 1 or 2 that I lost touch with. But even now, when I go do my off-road dirt bike racing and in the mountain bike racing, if I need assistance, I need my teammates, I need their support, I call them and they're with me. We've done, although they don't enjoy it as much as they did the drag racing, nowhere at all.
Yeah.
I mean, not even close. And I see it on their face, like, why don't we just go drag racing? What is this bullshit? We're drag racing. I'm like, no, we gotta go drag racing. I mean, 2014, I wanted to do this 24-hour dirt bike race in Ironman class. That no teammates, it's just me on the dirt bike for 24 hours straight. It was like a first one on the East Coast, and I wanted to do it. And the setup was you sort of kind of get not selected, but sort of kind of get selected to race for that event. And they have an Ironman class in the age group as a pro or as a novice, and as well as teams, whether it's a 2-man team, a 4-man team, or a 6-man team. But I wanted to do the Ironman class and be out there. So I called Louis, who was my right-hand man in the drag race. I'm like, Louis, we're doing a 24-hour race. And he's first like, oh yeah, where? He thinks it's a car. I'm like, it's going to be a motorcycle race, dirt bike race. He's like, why? I'm like, because it's there, and if somebody's gonna win, it might as well be us. Yeah. Let's go win a 24-hour race. We've never done that before. So he's like, you're crazy. Because why would you want to do a 24-hour race? I'm like, why not? We got to do it. And man, what an experience that was.
Yeah, I bet.
What an experience. I was training for that event 4 weeks before. I crashed and I broke my 3 fingers, and so I didn't go to the doctor because I didn't want to get it, put in a cast. I needed to. So I kept training, but like Velcroing my fingers to the handlebar, so they don't flutter like this and inflame.
Yeah.
Get inflamed because they were very sensitive. They were still broken. So come race day, it was getting better and better and better. Come race day, it was still hurt, but I managed to race like that. But I was on a bike for a total of 22 hours and 17 minutes out of the 24 hours. So I would come in every 4 laps. Each lap was about 42 minutes. I would come in every 3 or 3.5 hours, get new water pack, fuel. They would clean the chain, lube the chain. I would have maybe a little bite to eat, and I would take off again. And I went on throughout the whole night into the morning. But you know what? Your brain goes through this range of emotions. Like one point you feel like depressed.
Yeah.
Next you feel like hyper. Like, it was like the race started at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was like, oh, I have a good story for that one. So the whole 6 months that I'm preparing for this, I'm doing my calculation. What am I going to do if I have to piss? So if I'm going to drink X amount of ounces of water an hour to keep dehydrated. That means I'm going to have to do at least 7 or 8 stops. If I spend 20 seconds for a piss stop, shit. What if I lose the race because of that? Fuck that. I'm going to wear an external catheter. I'll put a catheter on. I'm going to run a tube down my pants, and I'm going to put in the exit hole in the back of my boots, and I'm just going to piss while I'm riding. So I ordered this whole kit, right? And a week before the event, I tested out. Yeah. Holy shit. I don't want to go into details, but the fucking thing doesn't work. It's an external. It's like a condom, right? So you put it on. It's got this valve. It's got this tube, the whole thing. And fucking thing, I put it on. It doesn't want to fucking come off. It's got glue at the end when you roll all the way back. It's got fucking glue on this condom, right? And the fucking thing doesn't want to come off. I'm like, holy shit. I had to call my wife and like, we got to go to the hospital. This fucking thing doesn't come off. I finally got it off, you know? I finally got it off. So I'm like, fuck the catheter. I can't do that. I'm just going to piss in my pants while I'm riding. So 4 hours in, like the second stop, after the second fuel stop, I'm drinking all this, getting hydrated, and I'm not pissing. Suddenly I have to piss. All right, no big deal. I stood up on the bike. I kind of slowed down, and I pissed, and the piss goes down my left leg into my boots. Yeah. I'm like, all right, it'll dry up. 10 minutes later, I had to piss again. I'm like, fuck. So 10 minutes later, I had to piss again, to the point where now I had a fucking puddle of piss in my left boot, and I was going to throw out my helmet. So I come in through time and scoring, and Louis standing there, and he's going, 1 lap to go, 1 lap to go. I'm like, no, pit now. And he thinks something's wrong with the bike, like maybe I crashed or something. I need to go in and change my pants and change my socks and my boots because I was going to throw up my helmet because it was so fucking disgusting, you know? So I went to I'm riding at a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit in the pit range, in the pit area. I'm putting 10 miles an hour. Here's Louis. He's fucking running to beat me to go get the tools ready because he doesn't know what the fuck is wrong with the bike. And I finally get there. He's like, what happened? I'm like, I need news. Now he's starting to take my pants. I'm like, don't touch anything. It's fucking piss. Don't touch anything. It's piss. So I fucking sat there and I had to change. And so all the time I saved pissing in my pants, I lost changing the pants on my boot. So the next year, I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop and piss like a real man. You know, yeah. I would pull over, go to find a tree and piss and all that. But anyway, that was the experience of that, of racing that. But we didn't win. We ended up coming in 4th place. But that was 22 hours and 17 minutes on a bike. It was a very good experience. That was the first one. It was 2014. And this year it got canceled because of the COVID, unfortunately.
Man, you've lived an exciting life, bro.
Yeah, it's an exciting life for sure. Yeah, I mean, I love the road racing. I love the drag racing. I love the dirt bike and the mountain bike because that's a little bit more physical. Yeah. And there's a lot of training involved, you know. And I like to push, and I like to, you know, it can get a little dangerous. Yeah. I've broken a lot of bones on a dirt bike. I have a lot of hardware on me now from crashes and stuff, but that's part of the game. Yeah. You know.
Man, dude, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you, man. It's such great stories.
It's 2.5 hours.
I love it, man. I love it. We have dedicated listeners, so they listen all the way to the end.
Oh, my God. That's awesome. Thank you so much for this. I mean, to all the listeners, anybody that wants to, you know, kind of get an idea of how it was back in the, you know, late 90s and the 2000s with the explosion of the import plus the Fast and Furious, you know, the first one and then the second one. But you bring on, you know, I'm sure a lot of the other guys have a lot of stories, but, you know, the shenanigans that went on, you know, after racing was over at the restaurants and hotels with all the racing. And I have great stories with, you know, with all the teams. um, you know, just the shit that happened behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun days, a lot of good memories.
Definitely,
And it
man.
wasn't just about the racing and the winning and the losing. It was a lot of the fun that went on after racing.
Yeah, I'm on a mission now. I definitely want to talk to some of the OGs for sure. Now, before we
Yeah.
get out of here, there's probably going to be a lot of drag racers, current drag racers listening now. What are some tips that you can give them to help further their career in drag racing?
Um, that's a very good question. It's as far as sponsorships, uh, the presentation, whether it's a PowerPoint, the package, the personal presentation with the sponsors, is don't be afraid to ask for a lot of money. Don't shortchange the program. You have to make them understand why, the importance of being a partner on the team. But don't be afraid of making the program expensive, because it costs money. And sponsors uh, sponsors are the way I learned it. What I realized back then. Sponsors are more attracted to teams who are willing to spend money, even if it's coming from the partner's money, but putting the money into the team to promote the brand. So that's a big thing is promoting the brand. And when you promote the brand, that's other one thing I did when we brought Circus City in, is how do we take Street Glow products and put it in Circus City shelves?
Yeah.
It wasn't just a sticker on the race car and on the shirt. It was putting Street Glow products on Circus City shelves, electronics. And so when you are working with a marketing brand, there's always this business to business cross marketing that is very beneficial, and that's how you expand the program. That's how you bring in more sponsors. As far as racetrack, it is very important to put together a very quality team, and you have the owner of the team has to take very, very good care of the team, of the teammates. Very good care, financially, in every single way. Because I'm not a mechanic, and my car would have never run any number without the team, without their help.
Gotcha.
I had a dream, I had a vision, but they fulfilled it, and it wasn't me. So a strong team and being a small part of a strong team is a big factor in becoming a very successful racing team of any caliber, drag racing or road racing. But there's a lot of things in between that.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much in a nutshell is learning to work with the marketing department of a brand, and also using the whole team as a package for the brand. But the team has to be together, has to be compensated well, has to be taken care of very well. That's one way to avoid, losing quality crews, because a quality crew member can easily be picked up by another team.
Yeah.
And, you have to create a good bond. We had a great bond that we developed. It was partly because of our chemistry, and as well as financially, the team was taken care of.
Got it, man. You've dropped so many gems in this podcast, man. I really, really appreciate it. There's so much benefit into talking to somebody like yourself who was around in those heydays and who thrived.
Yeah. And really, I feel like I haven't said much, to be honest with you. I mean, I sincerely, I really feel like I'm going to hang up now. I'm going to say, oh, shit, I forgot to talk about that. I mean, there's so much more, but unfortunately.
Well, hopefully, after all this COVID stuff goes down, we're in the East Coast all the time, man. Maybe we could do one of these in person next time.
Oh my God, that would be an honor. I
Definitely,
really
man. It was an honor to sit with you, man. I really, really appreciate your insight and on everything. And yeah, let's definitely keep in touch, man. If there's anything that we
yeah,
could ever help out with, I'm very excited to share your story for sure.
yeah. Thank you so much. And if there's anything I can do for the sport, with whatever little I can do, I'll be more than whatever I can do. I love the sport. I love the culture. You
Definitely.
know, the sport is, you have many types of racing sport. Like I said, mountain biking, dirt biking, road course, but the culture of import racing is unique, and it's very. I'm very grateful to have been a part of it, and I still feel a part of it. And uh, with social media, about a year and a half ago or so, I became more involved again, and so I'm very happy about that. And um, but I would love to see the sport go back to where it used to be.
Yeah, likewise, man. That's one of my goals. You can always complain about things, or you could do your part to try to help that goal come to life, man. And that's what I definitely want to do with this. So, really, really appreciate you sharing your time and sharing your experiences. So now,
Thank you.
people listening that want to know more about you, where can they follow along your life at?
Well, I mean, the only thing I have as far as social media is Instagram, and uh, 618 Toro, uh, and no, I don't have Facebook,
Perfect.
and I don't have YouTube, so
Okay.
that's Instagram is the only way to follow along. I post a lot of older pictures, and I get good comments on. I get good feedbacks, and with the older stuff, and I have a lot of stuff that I still am going to post, that I have like videos of that I have to convert to digital.
Yeah.
I can and then put it in an Instagram format, and so I can post them. And so yeah, that's the only way right now, and through good people like you.
For sure. Thank you so much, man. You said 618 Toro is the Instagram, right?
Yes.
Okay, we'll have it listed below,
I think
guys.
is it? Let me see. Double check.
Either way, we'll have it listed, and we'll tag you in everything once it comes out. Make sure you guys follow Ara, and
Yeah, 618 Toro.
you know what I'm gonna need? I'm gonna need a picture of you with the Warren Johnson. I want to see that picture
Oh,
in the
I have
Hot
a
Rod
beautiful picture
magazine.
like this, and there's a picture where the photographer told us like to get like face to face,
Yeah.
and so I'm like face to face like this, and I'm trash talking the shit out of him. I'm trash talking like this, and I'm trash talking. I'm like, and I don't remember word for word what I was saying, but I know for sure it's trash. And you can see in his face a little bit, he was starting to be a little bit annoyed,
Yeah.
but I didn't care. But there's a picture like that. You can see. I'll send you the picture.
Okay. Perfect.
There's a picture of that. It's a really cool picture.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for your time, man. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you very, very, very much. I really appreciate this. Thank you for your time.
Of course. And thank you guys all for listening. I know you enjoyed that one right there. Hopefully, you guys take some of those gems and implement them into your life and into your race program. So I want to thank you guys for listening. Big shout out to our sponsors, Heel Toe Automotive, been around since 2002, supplying you guys with your Honda parts. Make sure you guys listen to the commercial and you know how to get hooked up. And then a big shout out to Rywire. Make sure you guys check them out, rywire.com, or on Instagram at rywire_motorsport_electronics. And lastly, Action Clutch, man. Clutch is made in Los Angeles and can hold up to 1,200 horsepower.
That's an action. Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, they've been around for a while. I think it's actually a family business as well, because we do business with the son. But yeah, they've been in LA for a long. I think even since the 70s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Is their package yellow like their box?
Oh, it's red. It's red now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it just rang a bell.
Yeah.
We didn't use their clutch, but I remember that brand.
I love it, man. Hell yeah. Shout out to Action Clutch, man. Make sure you guys check them out, actionclutch.com, or on Instagram at actionclutch. And thank you guys for listening, man. This is Downtime with Downstar, episode 201. And we're out of here. Peace.